Cortez here with Apostolic Zeal. This video is dedicated to the Black Hebrew Israelites. Stay tuned.
In this life you will have tribulations, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world.
This track was born essential.
All right, so I was introduced to the Black Hebrew Israelites about 2.5 years ago. One day I was in the break room, and this individual, he comes to the break room, and he says that he's from the tribe of Judah, that he's not African American, that he's an Israelite, he's a Jew. And that was my introduction to the Black Hebrew Israelites. We talked for about 2 years, about 1.5 years, 2 years, by email, phone, and then I washed my hands of it. There was no need for me to talk to someone who's convinced that he is a certain ethnicity, so I left the issue alone. But if you don't know much about the Black Hebrew Israelites, here's their central claim. They believe that they are not African Americans, but they believe that they are Jews according to blood. That is one of their central claims. And another belief that is associated with this group is that Jesus Christ is a created being. So they have a low Christology. They deviate from Orthodox Christianity in that they believe that Jesus Christ had a beginning as opposed to eternally being God. So today in this video, I'm going to talk about the second claim, their Christology. If you want to know more about the first claim, I have a link in the description below. And in the discussion, there's a Black Hebrew Israelite and non-Black Hebrew Israelite talking about the first claim. So that is what you can find in the description below. But anyway, let's get into it.
Shalom, Israel. It's Kazawan. And the name of this video is The Trinity Doctrine is False.
All right, so I chose this video because this is the video that the Black Hebrew Israelite sent me personally. So that's why I'm responding to this particular video. The guy talking in the video, I don't know him. I haven't seen any of his videos. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that not all Black Hebrew Israelites fit into the same category. There is diversity among the group, like there's diversity in any group. But I do notice some trends in the group, and one particular trend is that they have a low view of Jesus Christ.
Most of us that know that we are the Israelites of the Bible, we don't believe in the Trinity.
Okay, so a few things here. Look at the image. What is it? It is Catholic art. What is he trying to suggest in this image? He's trying to suggest that the Trinity finds its origins in Catholicism or the Catholic Church rather than the Bible. Psychologically, this is the effect that the image has on the viewers. That needs to be pointed out. Secondly, you see that the Father and Jesus Christ are European, and you have the Holy Spirit in dove form there. What is he trying to suggest with that? What he is saying is that because the Catholic Church was wrong about their ethnicity, and they were, then everything that they put forth should be viewed with suspicion. Now, I'm not a defender of the Catholic Church, but I just want to point out these subtleties, because when you make a video, everything is intentional, everything has meaning, and this needs to be pointed out as well before going forth. The main ideal here is tradition versus scripture. Trinity is tradition, not scripture. That is the connection that is being made.
But sometimes we don't know how to properly show them that it's wrong. 1 Thessalonians 5:21 says, prove all things. Hold fast that which is good. So that's what I want to do in this video through the Spirit of the Most High, Yahweh, in the name of his Son, Yahweh Shai. Now, before I get into the scriptures, I have to give the proper understanding of what the Trinity doctrine is, because most people don't actually know what the Trinity doctrine says, including Christians themselves. Many Christians disagree with the explanation of the Trinity given by other Christians. So let's properly define it according to the doctrine. Now, for all my hardcore Israelites out there, I'm going to be using the term God a lot in this video because it's necessary for the point of this video. All right? Now, what is the official explanation of the Trinity?
So for the next 5 to 6 minutes, he begins to articulate what the Trinity is. He gives a definition of it. I don't have any real issues with what he has said about the Trinity thus far, but that is what is going on in the first 5 minutes of the video.
Therefore, according to the Trinity, God exists as three distinct divine persons who are identical in essence and co-eternal and co-equal in power. Again, the Trinity states God exists as three distinct divine persons who are identical in essence and co-eternal and co-equal in power. So that is the official explanation of the Trinity. Now, let's go into the scriptures and deal with this from a biblical standpoint, because again, a lot of our people are caught up in this belief. Let's start with a verse that Trinitarians love to use. 1 Timothy 3:16.
So Trinitarians do not begin with 1 Timothy 3:16 when we talk about the Trinity. It's not that we have anything against this verse in particular. It's just that we begin most of the time with 1 John. And I'll say more about 1 Timothy 3:16 later. For example, if you look at these two books here, if you look at Wayne Grudem's Systematic Theology, and if you look at James White, The Forgotten Trinity, when they begin to talk about the Trinity, they begin with John chapter 1. And John chapter 1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. So when you look at John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word. What does that sound like? That sounds like Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning was the Word. They both begin with in the beginning. So in many ways, John is giving us explanation or more information on who this God is. Who is this God who created the heavens and the earth? He tells us that with this God, there is the Word, and he is with God, and he is God. And if you continue to read that chapter, verse 14 says the Word became flesh. The Word became a man, who we know as Jesus Christ. So John 1 is the classic text. You see God, and we see another person with God who's described as the Word. They are persons, and the Word becomes flesh. Now, another thing to point out with this passage is that in the Greek language, it says in the beginning was the Word. The word was there is ain. And the tense communicates a progressive action in the past. In other words, it is saying the Word was always with God. It does not communicate a point of origin. The Word was always there. Most of the time when you deal with groups like this, now this guy hasn't said it specifically, but they normally would say that Christ is a created being. In other words, he has a point of origin. Another way to communicate this is that, for example, I was born on June 25th, 83. I had a point of origin. Before June 25th, 1983, I was not here. June 25th, 1973, I was not here. June 25th, 1963, I was not here. So I have a birthday. What they're saying is that Jesus Christ essentially has a birthday, that he was created, then he came into the flesh. The Bible does not teach that. Christ does not have a point of origin. He's the Alpha, the Omega. He's the beginning and the end, or the last, the first and the last. He's the A to Z. He's not the Beta and the Omega. He's the Alpha and the Omega. And now, as I said, he hasn't said this specifically, but I do want to just point this out since I am talking about this particular issue. Christ does not have a point of origin. He's the Word that is with God. He's the Word that is God. And Trinitarians, when we talk about the relationship between a father and a son, we begin with John chapter 1.
Let's read 1 Timothy 3:16 again. It says, "And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of angels, preached unto the Gentiles, believed on in the world, received up into glory." Many Trinitarians believe that this verse supports the Trinity because it says God was manifest in the flesh. The truth is, the word God is not in the original text. The original text says he who was manifest in the flesh. The he is a reference to Yahweh Shai, not the Most High. Now, I'm not going to harp on this point because there's a lot of information to cover, but you can verify that for yourself by just looking it up. This is not hard to find. The Bible itself clearly explains that it was Yahweh Shai that came in the flesh, not the Most High. Let's go to 2 John 1:7. Here it is. It says, "For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Yahweh Shai is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist." See, Yahweh Shai was manifest or came in the flesh, not the Most High Yahweh. To say that the Most High came in the flesh is completely wrong and contrary to the Bible. The Most High sent Yahweh Shai, and he came in the flesh. Let's go to Hebrews 10:5. It says, "Wherefore, when he cometh into the world," the he is Yahweh Shai, "when he came into the world," it says, "he saith, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me." So the Most High prepared a body for Yahweh Shai to use. The Most High didn't get inside a body and come down here. He sent his son as a representative to show us how to be righteous.
Okay, so he brings up two things here. One, he brings up the unreliability of 1 Timothy 3:16, and then he talks about the fact that the Father did not come into the flesh, but the Son came into the flesh. Those are the two things he mentions in this video. So let's just take these in reverse order. So the fact that he belabors the obvious, that he stresses the obvious, namely that the Father did not come into the flesh, but the Son came into the flesh, that makes me think that he doesn't truly understand the doctrine of the Trinity, because he's talking about the obvious. Trinitarians would never say that the Father came into the flesh. We have always maintained that the Son came into the flesh. This is John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. Verse 14, he became flesh. We have always stated that. So the fact that he goes on and on about this point that we agree with makes me think that he doesn't understand the Trinity. I mean, think about it. If someone talks about the obvious, you would have to conclude that they don't understand what's going on. What if someone came up to you and they said, "I have something to tell you"? What is it? Women can have babies and get pregnant. Men, they cannot do that. And they continue to stress this point. I would conclude from the conversation that clearly you have not been around men and women. What world are you from? So this is how I receive what he said on that point. It's obvious. We have never said that. So going back to the first point, well, the point about 1 Timothy 3:16, I'm going to post a video at the end of this video that talks about why there is a textual variant there. But even if you take both readings, God manifested himself in the flesh, or he who manifested himself in the flesh, both readings still support the Trinitarian doctrine. So let's go with God manifested himself in the flesh. This is only a confirmation of John chapter 1. The Word became flesh. God became flesh. The Son became flesh and dwelt among us. So there's nothing new here. Dealing with this, the second reading, if we're going to say that it says he who came into the flesh, you only have two choices here. You have either that he is an angel or is God. It is definitely not a human being. because we are born in the flesh. We are already in the flesh. We cannot appear in the flesh. It can't be an angel because the text later on says he was seen by the angels. Angels see each other all the time. It would make no sense to make that statement if an angel appeared in the flesh when angels see each other all the time. So the only option that you have is God manifested himself in the flesh, who is the Son, who is the Word that was with God and the Word that is God. So everything that he states in this video is only affirming what we already believe.
In 1 Timothy 3:16, in the King James Bible, it says, God was manifest in the flesh. In modern translations, it simply says, he who was manifest in the flesh. And that sounds, you can build a real conspiracy on that. That sounds like those rascally modern translators. And I've worked as a critical consultant on the New American Standard Bible for the Lockman Foundation. We are conservative men in the work that we do. We believe in the deity of Christ. We defend the deity of Christ. So why is there such a difference? Well, let me explain to you the fact that in the earliest manuscripts, and what's called the unsealed text, the majuscule, the original manuscripts of the New Testament written in all capital letters, no punctuation, no space between words. Lots of fun to read. Now, in those capital letter forms, the early Christians developed something called the nomina sacra, the sacred names. They would actually use abbreviations to try to get more onto a page. Most of the early Christians were poor people. And in fact, remember, the church was under persecution for the first 300 years of its existence. You couldn't go to the rich people to have nice manuscript copies made at that particular point in time. And so they would use these abbreviations for like God, Jesus, Spirit, common words. They would abbreviate them as one or two letters and put a line over top of them. God was one of the words that they did this with. Now, when we hear the difference between God and he who, that sounds like a big difference. But I'd like to show you something on the screen that shows you what the difference between these two words is. If we could bring that up, you'll be able to see that in the original language, the term God is two letters, and the word he who is two letters. There you can see it. I'm not sure if the audience can see it. But you can see the term God, theta sigma with a line on top, and then omicron sigma is hos. The only difference between these two words are two little lines. And remember what you're originally writing on. Papyrus, which is made up of leaves that are pressed together, crossed like this, or leather manuscripts, vellum, all of which have what in them? Lines. And you're reading somebody else's handwriting. It's very easy to understand. No reason for conspiracies here. It's very easy to understand why someone would misunderstand or misread someone else's handwriting. And at the bottom of that screen was a shot from Codex Sinaiticus. And you can see that its original reading was Hos, and then about 700 years later, someone had written Theos in above it. You can see it in the second line toward the end, where someone has made an emendation about 700 years after the original writing. So every time there is a text where there is a difference in regards to the deity of Christ or anything else, I've examined every single one of them. In John 1:18, for example, the King James does not contain a reference to the deity of Christ that is found in the modern translations, where Jesus is described as monogenes theos, the unique God, the one who has exegeted or revealed the Father. So in every single one of these instances, there is no reason to think that there's some type of conspiracy.